Hi friends, we are here in Eureka, Missouri, about 30 miles outside of St. Louis to visit Six Flags St. Louis. This was actually one of the very first parks that I ever visited. I think the third one. And my very first major coaster credit, Screamin Eagle, is here celebrating its 50th year anniversary this year.
Nice.
So I am excited to be back, and this is your first time here, right?
It is, yeah, and I really don't know all that much about it. I had a quick look at the coasters, and it looks like there's some fun wooden coasters. I love a woody. And also today, I'm potentially, assuming we get around to riding 6 coasters, this will be my 250th credit today.
Woo!
So pretty excited about that. Hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah, so you're experiencing a milestone, I'm revisiting a milestone, and this is actually the last opportunity we're gonna have to experience this park as Six Flags St. Louis. Because earlier this year, Six Flags sold this park along with a few others to a new chain called Enchanted Parks.
Yeah, I noticed they already have some of their signage up out the front here. I wonder if there's like any other changes in the park.
Yeah, last time I was here, it's been quite a while. This park has always been seen as a bit of a black sheep of the Six Flags chain, and there hadn't been a lot of investment put into it. And interestingly, Enchanted has declared this park as their flagship moving forward. So hopefully that investment strategy has already changed or will be changing soon.
Yeah, I can see it being their flagship. I mean, it's got a pretty impressive entrance.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because here in just a minute, I'm gonna dive into the history of this park, and I think that'll give you some perspective of why this grand entry plaza is so grand.
All right, looking forward to it.
But we've got 10 credits here, and we've got to ride at least 6 of them so that Kieran can get to 250.
Yes.
So let's get in there and ride them.
Let's do it.
Hi there, and welcome to Six Flags St. Louis.
Well, we are already starting off the day on the right foot because someone in the gift shop just handed me this paper map of Six Flags St. Louis. And I cannot tell you the last time I went to a regional amusement park and was able to collect a paper map. And don't you just love this? One, everything from the artwork to the fact that we'll be able to get around today without looking at our phones, which I can't stand that trend.
I love coming to an amusement park with no expectations to low expectations and then be greeted with this incredible plaza here. It really exceeded what I expected to see here. It looks like a Main Street USA.
Yeah, totally. Well, this plays into that history that I was talking about earlier, in that everything you see here is a remnant of the fact that this is one of the 3 original Six Flags parks. This opened in 1971 as Six Flags Over Mid-America, and it was the final theme park that was built from the ground up as a Six Flags. In 1996, it was renamed to Six Flags St. Louis for the park's 25th anniversary, and then funny enough, next season it will be renamed to Mid-America by Enchanted Parks, which I'm not really sold on that as the name for a theme park at the moment.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll come around to it.
It's gonna be really weird getting used to a whole new theme park brand. Like the ones that we have been set in stone for so long, and now we've got a new one, but I'm sure in a couple years I will remember. I've been calling it Emerald Park, not Enchanted Parks.
That's in Dublin, Ireland, which hopefully we'll get to soon.
Hopefully.
But for now, let's enjoy this park that's outside of St. Louis. One last comment as we leave the very nice looking entry plaza is that I've seen this area in a variety of conditions over the years, and right now it looks about as good as I can ever remember seeing it. So I don't know if that is Six Flags or Enchanted Parks, but whoever's doing it, keep it up. Everywhere you look, there's still Six Flags branding all over this park, for example. So it's gonna be really interesting to see 1 year from now how different everything's gonna look. Because obviously this won't be here. All of the DC and Warner theming is gonna be stripped, which in my opinion, only a good thing.
I think this says something pretty interesting about modern theme parks compared to theme parks that have been built in the past. Is here we have a sign for a restaurant here, Macho Nacho, and it's kind of just flat printed, whereas this, which is an older sign I'm assuming, is made up of 3D letters. I've seen some around the park that are really gold and ornate. There's one over here for a hot dog place. It's just a level of detail that perhaps we don't see in modern amusement parks.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like craftsmanship has gone by the wayside in favor of things that are a little cheaper, easier, and quicker to produce.
Unfortunately so.
Our first ride of the day is American Thunder, which is a GCI wooden coaster that's not quite custom. It's actually a clone of a roller coaster called Thunderbird up in Power Park in Finland. But this opened in 2008, and back then this was brand new, and I quickly declared it my favorite GCI. Granted, the only ones that I had ridden at the time were like Kentucky Rumbler and Thunderhead, which I know is controversial because this is one of the smaller GCIs. It's about 2,700 feet long. It's 82 feet tall with an 80-foot twisting drop and tops out at 48 miles per hour. But it runs the amazing Millennium Flyer trains and has lots of fun pops of airtime. So I'm excited to get back on this and see if it's held up the way that I remember.
All right, that's what I do when I come to the Beam on up you makes. Do you want to grab your belongings?
Coaster 245, American Thunder, cha-ching! And we are going to be doing our ride review from under the brake run where it's shaded because, shoo, it is so hot today.
It's like 100 degrees out here.
With that said, I just rode in the front row and the back row. Kieran rode twice near the back. I personally loved it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like American drizzle. No, American starting to storm. I don't know. It was okay. I did have a good time on it. It's short and it's punchy. I just expected some of the airtime moments just to be a little more intense, but I guess that's just not what it is.
Yeah, this is totally a mid-size GCI, so definitely temper your expectations. There are 10 different moments of airtime. I know because I counted on the second ride.
Nice.
As I'm getting older in age, I appreciate these GCIs more and more. This ride is now 18 years old. I haven't done it since its opening season, but I was really surprised at how well it's holding up. And again, I attribute that mostly to how comfortable those GCI Millennium Flyers are.
Absolutely.
I just truly want to pick up one of those cars and put them in our living room.
I don't know about that.
The highlight moment for me is definitely after the large turnaround. You go into a double down that starts with a large drop followed by a smaller dip. Then you go into the big fan turn, and after that, the rest of the ride is just like a series of small bunny hops in succession back to the station. And I do agree with you, the airtime is not intense. It's definitely light floater, but as a whole, it runs well, and I just think it's a really fun ride that pretty much everybody could enjoy.
Yeah, feels like a good start to the day here at Six Flags St. Louis.
With that said, let's move on to the next one.
As we mentioned earlier, it is a bajillion degrees out here, not helped by the fact that basically the entire park is on blacktop, which makes it probably 100 degrees hotter. We are going to be riding the log flume to cool down a little bit.
Yes, and I'm excited to do the log flume because last time I was here, this whole area of the park was shut down, and honestly, not only looked like it had seen better days, but looked like it maybe had reached a point of no return. There's this really pretty new floral display that they have put up, and this is a classic aero log flume that opened in 1971. It was an opening day attraction. I'm so excited that we get to do it.
nice little spritz of water.
In fact, I probably could have used a bit more of a spritz because it is so hot. Such a fun ride. It's a short but sweet classic aero log flume. They've clearly refurbished it recently. The logs smoothly traverse the trough, which I love, as opposed to some log flumes that just like scuttle around the entire time. But it has 2 lifts. Midway through the ride, there is this fun, gentle drop where you really pick up speed, and then before you know it, you're going up that final conveyor belt and dropping down for the nice final splashdown, which, as Kieran said, was just a light spritz.
Yeah, nothing too bad. And I also liked how the logs were sometimes elevated and sometimes in the ground. It was cool to traverse some different levels.
Right. Played with levels well. What's also interesting about that log flume is that I guess it's at one point it was a dueling or racing log flume. I don't know if they ever actually run both sides, but it has 4 stations. So back in 1971, I bet that thing was a capacity monster. And I do appreciate that even though they're not running the other side of the flume today, they still have the water running down the trough, so that as you are traversing the other flume, it doesn't look like the non-operational one is just like sitting there old, dry, and rusting. You know, again, it's that attention to detail that makes all the difference. And that was a really pleasant ride.
So here we are in the DC area of the park, which has a huge concrete DC sign in the concrete, not to mention all the rides and attractions around here. So what happens when it turns to Enchanted Parks? Do they still have the rights for DC?
No, I believe that all of this has to go away, if I understand correctly. Now, behind me is the Justice League Dark Ride, which, you know, that is going to be a major overhaul. Before Justice League moved into this building, this was actually a Scooby-Doo and the Scary Swamp boat dark ride, and I love Scooby-Doo. Obviously, we're not going to see that IP come back, and we're not going to see the ride system change back for a boat ride as opposed to, I think it's like a Triotech dark ride, shooting dark ride. But all that to say is that I'm really excited that the park has this opportunity, shall we call it, to ditch all of this generic superhero IP and come up with something really original to this St. Louis park. I hope that Enchanted Park puts the care and investment in to make this something special. I guess we'll see about a year from now.
Well, I could swear we were in Dallas right now at Six Flags Over Texas, because this is looking pretty familiar to me. Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. I'm going to assume that this is like just a clone of what they have in Texas?
Well, you know how I like to get technical. This is actually a mirror image of the premier launch coaster at Six Flags Over Texas. So technically, this is a custom model right here.
Okay. Daniel, you were saying that you wanted a little more spritz than the log flume was able to give. So does that mean we should do this?
I think that's a little more than the spritz that I've bargained for.
Yeah, I think I agree with that one.
I'm not really in the mood for a flash flood this afternoon. Mr. Freeze is a premier LIM-launched shuttle coaster that takes you from 0 to 70 miles per hour in less than 4 seconds. It reaches a top height of 218 feet. Well, I say that. That's actually the top height of the spike, which, even though there's a really cool second LIM launch that boosts you up to the top of the spike, you don't really reach that number. I'd say the final car probably reaches the highest point of around 200 feet, if that. It opened in 1998 after being delayed a year due to technical issues, and it's undergone a few changes since it first opened. In 1998, it had over-the-shoulder restraints, which caused lots of headbanging. So in the 2002 season, those were retrofitted with lap bar only restraints, making for a much more comfortable ride experience. And then in 2012, when the ride first opened, you would launch forward would do the first part of the ride forwards, and then you'd go up the spike and fall backwards to complete the ride. In 2012, they changed things up. They reversed the direction of the trains, so now you launch backwards into the first half of the ride. When you reach the top of the spike, you're now facing straight down at the ground, and then you complete the ride in the forward direction. Speaking of blast, they're blasting the AC in here.
Thank God that this ride is set in an ice cream factory.
Yeah, Kieran, I don't know if you are gonna get to 250 credits today, because I think we're gonna be spending the rest of our time at Six Flags St. Louis in this queue.
Coaster 246, Mr. Freeze, and wow, oh wow, that is such a good ride.
Woo, insane. I forget how intense these premier launch shuttle coasters are. You are facing backwards, you rocket out, which, you know, burst you forward, and then you rise into the top hat, and the transitions on this thing are crazy. You whip to the side, giving you a burst of laterals, maybe even like a pop of airtime. Then you get a bit of hang time as you are going backwards through the top hat, and then you whip to the side again. Suddenly you are thrust backwards into the overbank turn for some crazy positive G's. Then before you know it, you are rising backwards up that spike, you are boosted further up, and then you are just flying 200 feet in the air, completely weightless, as the train starts to fall back to earth. Then you are thrust forward once again into that overbank turn for some more near gray out positive G's. Then you enter that giant top hat one more time, this time going forwards, and you do go through the element much more slowly this time. So while you still get that whip into and out of it, when you are upside down way in the air, you are just hanging from your lap bar for one of the best hang time moments I can think of outside of an RMC stall. Then you fly back into the launch shed one more time, this time slowing down. But what I love that Six Flags St. Louis has done is that they've installed these multicolor flashing LED strips that really add an extra element to that dark tunnel at the beginning and end. So all in all, such a great ride. I was blown away. I want to do it again, honestly.
That spike is such a crazy element of this ride. I love that when it like catches you, at least I expect just to be caught and stop, but then it like boosts you further up, and as Daniel said, you get just an amazing view from up there. And then when it releases you and you drop back down, the G forces in that drop are insane. Like it like crushes me into the train car. Like I literally can't keep my head up. It's so much fun.
I love these topiary arches that you can find here and at Six Flags Over Georgia. I'm not sure if that's because it's a feature of the original Six Flags parks. I can't remember if Six Flags Over Texas has one, but we'll have to pay attention when we're there later this summer. All that to say is, this is a great source of shade. I wish more parks had shaded walkways like this. We are currently headed up 180 feet on the Colossus Ferris Wheel. This wheel has some fun history as well. It originally debuted at the 1984 Louisiana World Exposition in New Orleans before being moved here to Six Flags St. Louis in 1986. So fun that we still get to ride it here today, and I bet there's going to be some great views of both the coasters and hopefully even St. Louis in the distance at the top, though we are 30 miles away, so. on this vacant pad behind me used to be this really cool flat ride called Excalibur, which was a giant evolution ride. Essentially, it was a 113-foot tall arm with these seats around the bottom, and it spun around as fast as, picture like the Gravitron ride at your fair. So you were like pinned to your seat, and then the whole gondola would rotate and hold you where the riders were facing straight down at the ground. It was insane. It was so elaborately themed. You can still see some remnants of the nice theming in the area, but sadly it was always plagued with mechanical issues, and even though the park tried really hard to get it to work, ultimately, at the end of the 2022 season, they removed it. So fingers crossed we will see a nice replacement flat ride or something fill this spot soon.
Okay, so normally not a huge fan of spinning rides, but this is reminding me of that coaster that we rode at Six Flags Mexico, the Joker.
Yeah, exactly. This is a Gerstlauer spinning coaster clone, but it is a slightly larger version of the one that we did in Mexico.
Okay.
And hey, I have video evidence that you enjoyed that, so hopefully you'll like this too.
I hope so too. Coaster 247, Pandimonium.
Formerly known as Tony Hawk's Big Spin.
Okay, and big spin did we spin.
Yes,
Let me
indeed.
tell you, I don't generally like a spinning coaster, and we had ridden the one in Mexico, which I could handle. There wasn't too much spinning, but this was pretty crazy. We had nobody sitting opposite us, so the train was unbalanced, which I think meant we spun a whole lot. But I was able to handle it, thankfully. We'll tell you about the ride in a second, but one thing, when we came into the brake run, unfortunately the ride did have a little malfunction, and so we were stuck there for a little bit. And that would have been okay, but unfortunately we still had a lot of momentum as we came into that brake run.
Spinning like a top.
So it was maybe what, like a minute, 90 seconds of just solid spinning, and I was like, oh no.
Felt like an eternity, even to
Yeah.
me, especially because unfortunately the brake run, well, the particular spot on the brake run where we had stopped was directly in the sun.
Yes.
And it is 96 degrees and high humidity today.
Yeah.
So as we were spinning in circles, it was like, oh no.
It was pretty rough, but we survived. The team here was super efficient and got maintenance over real quick, so we were off in no time.
Yes. It's funny because when we first dropped off the lift, we were headed over the drop backwards and we didn't spin at all. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there isn't anything to this balanced versus unbalanced thing. Then we hit the first turn and around we went, which made the ride great. My favorite moment on these Gerstlauer spinning coaster clones is when you come up the mid-course, you go into a right banked helix, and then suddenly you transition to the left as you're still headed downhill. You're hit with positive G-forces, and we had centrifugal forces. We were spinning, we got popped up with some airtime. Yeah, that moment was great. And then this particular model has a really fun airtime hill, which we took completely backwards. It was a great experience. I don't remember the last time I had this much fun on a spinning coaster.
Yeah, me either. I'm not going to say that it's changed my mind on spinning coasters, but maybe I would be more open to them in the future, because if I'm able to withstand that 2 minutes of sustained spinning we did at the end there, what can I handle? All right, next up we are heading to one of my most anticipated coasters of this park, because I love a big wooden roller coaster, and I must comment on how awesome this entryway looks. How intimidating The boss queue begins with a set of stairs over the railway, which is kind of fun, kind of unique.
Super fun, super unique. I'm already a little exhausted going over them. And fun surprise for you, Kieran, what we just traversed was about 1% of the boss queue, because this ride is infamous for having one of the longest queues for any coaster in existence. So while we make the journey to the station, why don't I tell you guys a little bit about the boss, which is by far my most anticipated ride of the day. It's been a while since I've ridden it. In fact, last time I was here, this section behind me was a full helix. Oh, actually, that's so fun. I can literally see the remnants of the old track profile. Like, you can see it originally came around this wide turn here, circled back into the forest, and then jumped up into the double up into the brakes. I guess it lost too much momentum, or the helix was too rough. In general, this coaster, spoiler alert, Kieran, is highly regarded as being a rough ride.
Is this one that I've heard people saying they want to RMC?
Oh yeah, this is like at the top of people's list of roller coasters to be RMC'd, and you'll probably see why soon, but it's the last roller coaster that runs 2-bench Gerstlauer wooden coaster trains, which notoriously do not track well. The good thing about them is that they only have a singular lap bar restraint, so when you're just sitting in the trains and not moving, they're pretty comfortable. It's just when you're flying around wooden coaster track that they're pretty rough. At one time, this was actually one of my favorite roller coasters that I had ever ridden. It truly is a monster. I mean, the boss is such an apt name for it. It's over 4,600 feet long. It has a 150-foot, 52-degree first drop. At the bottom, you reach speeds of 66 miles per hour, and from what I remember, you certainly feel that. Now, we're likely going to be jackhammering through those valleys, so I'm not sure how much we'll enjoy it anymore, but excited to see how it's running.
Y'all ready for that 150-foot drop? 150. 150. Bye. Sorry about that one, Matt Ryan. That coaster is my favorite.
Coaster 248, the boss. And somebody get RMC on the line, because I've got a project for them.
So you're saying that your meeting with the boss did not go as well as expected?
It did not go as well as expected. It was extremely rough. Wow, like I don't think I've ever experienced a wooden roller coaster that was like that. It hurt. It literally hurt.
Okay, so I'll admit, when we were riding in the back car, there were moments where it literally felt like the wheels were shuffling back and forth a full foot. I mean, we were like banging back and forth against the track. Even in moments like you wouldn't expect to be rough, like the top of some of those giant turns. The surprise that I was referring to, spoiler alert, skip 30 seconds ahead if you don't want to hear this.
Yeah, there is a fantastic double down off the main drop. Incredible. I had no idea. It's so fun to hit that first drop, and then you kind of zoom through a tunnel, I think.
Well, it's like you are entering the dense structure, so it feels like a tunnel.
It does, it really does. And then down another drop, and then I think at the bottom of that drop is where you hit the first bang moment, where you're like, oh my god.
Well, see, here's the thing. What I had forgotten is that I believe there was some Titan track for me when we came down the second part of that double down. I was like, whoa, this is glass smooth. Like, they have retracked this ride. Everything is going so well. And then suddenly, brrr. Yeah. So I'm glad that they have done some work. It's definitely worth it in the sections they've redone, but they certainly have more work to do. With that said, overall, I still really liked it. I mean, this is such a massive ride, and I love giant straight drops, and this coaster has a plethora of them. Starting with the climb up that massive lift hill, then you traverse a 180-degree turn with a great great view of the rest of the park, and then you dive down what seems like a huge 150-foot first drop at 52 degrees, and sitting in the back, you get yanked over the crest of it. Love that. As Kieran said, you're then continuing downhill, you dive down the second part of the double down, then you rise up into a giant turn. There's a great drop off of that. However, that great drop is unfortunately dampened by the fact that you are shuffling back and forth.
Extremely rough.
You then rise into the mid-course brake run, and off of that you have another giant drop. I don't know how big that drop is, but it must be near 100 feet. It's fantastic. But what happens next is so funny.
Yeah, I don't think I've experienced this on any wooden roller coaster before. Basically, the train only barely makes it over that next hill, which is like such a unique experience. I feel like if it was a really cold day and there weren't many people in the train, it might valley, honestly.
Yeah, sitting in the back, I truly thought we were gonna valley on that first lap, which would have been a very interesting thing to happen because apparently a storm is about to roll in here at Six Flags St. Louis.
Yeah.
And that would not have been a comfy position to be in, valleyed in the midst of the layout of the boss. But then you do make it over, you round the curve, you drop down another probably anywhere from 60 to 80 foot drop, and from there on out, well, it should be a speedy run through the woods, over hills, around that final turn. However, the coaster does shuffle around and lag quite a bit. You are losing speed as the train is bouncing along that track.
Yeah.
Like, there are sections of the ride that have certainly received some work over the years. It does feel like that mid to last section has received no work at all.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because, like, if Gravity Group came in and reprofiled some of the hills the way that they've been doing for Grizzly at King's Dominion and Mighty Canadian Mindbuster at Canada's Wonderland, like, this could once again be a world-class ride that everyone is talking about.
Definitely. Against my better judgment, Daniel did convince me to ride a second time. We rode in the back on the first ride, which was extremely rough, obviously.
The second to back, the non-wheel seat, please do not ride in the very back row wheel seat.
True.
You don't want to experience that.
The next ride we rode in the very front, and that was way, way smoother, a much, much better experience. And what I loved about riding in the front, these trains are quite open in the front. There's like bars there, and so it feels like you're just like a mere few feet away from the track, and it's a really cool visual as you're going around.
Totally, and 66 miles per hour on a wooden coaster is very fast. So with that rough wood rushing past you, a great sensation of speed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, Enchanted Parks realizes what a gem they have on their hands with the boss. It just needs some polishing, you know?
Yeah, need some RMCing. And with that, we are on to coaster 249. Let's go! With the transition from Six Flags to Enchanted Parks, there seems to be a lot of confusion with the staff about like what benefits apply and what don't. So we just got this for free. I think they were so confused into like what we were asking for. We have like the paper cup every 15 minutes and they gave us this. So hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, the debut season of Enchanted Park souvenir cups.
Keep that.
Gosh.
eBay in 50 years, it's gonna be worth something.
In the meantime, we're gonna display it on our most prominent shelf. Well, it is a good thing that we just escaped the boss because there are now people stuck at the very top of the mid-course brake run. And it seems like they've been there a few minutes now, so, well, looks like we didn't have the worst meeting of the day.
After that back-to-back ride on the boss, I am in need of something from my little theme park survival bag. Ibuprofen.
We are officially available for sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah, maybe we should give them a call.
Oh, I'm sure the good people at Ibuprofen are very familiar with the Custom Coasters International rides. All right, right, Kieran, your penultimate coaster on the road to 250. It is Rookie Racer. You know anything about this one?
It looks like a junior coaster. It looks nice and smooth. I'm guessing maybe Premier Rides?
You're so close.
Oh.
It is a Vekoma Junior Coaster, model 247. I've ridden one of these at Energylandia in Poland, and then another at Boulevard World in Riyadh. So fun to get to come here to Missouri and ride another.
Yeah, it looks super smooth. Like the coaster is currently running and you can barely hear it. It's like a whisper.
These Vekoma Junior coasters are just like butter smooth, really well engineered rides. I think Six Flags actually picked this one up on the cheap from a park that was going to install it in some foreign country, and then plans ended up falling through for that park.
Gotcha.
But Six Flags St. Louis didn't previously have a junior coaster. The smallest coaster they had was the Mine Train. So my first thought is this is a great ride for them. In fact, last time I was here, this whole area was taken up by a sky coaster and an abandoned go-kart track. So they have since replaced it with a fun-looking family coaster and a giant Zamperla frisbee ride. So a much better use of space than upcharge attractions. All right, welcome, let's ride.
This ride has a really cool station. I love how it's kind of facing straight onto Mr. Freeze and the Ferris Wheel. It's a pretty cool view at the end there.
Credit number
249.
Woo! Rookie Racer, the newest roller coaster here at Six Flags St. Louis. What do you think?
Yeah, as suspected, it was glass smooth. There wasn't really too much going on. You know, I sat there with my hands on my lap, just kind of enjoying the ride, pretty chill. But kind of funny enough, like I've ridden all these crazy roller coasters today and felt totally fine. But getting off that, I felt a little bit nauseous. And like it could be because I'm a little dehydrated and it's really hot. But I also think it could be that thing like when you ride in the backseat of a Tesla and it's really smooth, it makes me feel like a little bit nauseous. So I feel like the smoothness of the roller coaster can contribute to that.
Wow, a roller coaster is so smooth, it made you sick.
Yes.
I have not heard that one before, Kieran, but I believe the science. But it's funny you say that. Yeah, with these, the Vekoma Junior coasters, they do have a really fun first 41-foot first drop, but then it is just kind of mid-height meandering turns.
Yeah.
And that's because I believe the model was initially designed to go inside of a shopping mall. All that to say is, you know, it's a nice addition to Six Flags St. Louis. It's well presented. Those little race car trains are super cute.
Yeah.
And yeah, the park needed a junior coaster. Solid for what it is.
Definitely.
All right, we are on to bigger and better things.
We are literally on the road to 250.
And this is one that I am so excited about because it's going to be Kieran's 250th credit, but it was one of my first 3 credits. In fact, yeah, it was my 3rd ever credit, my first ever major roller coaster. It is Screamin Eagle.
How cool is this sign for the Screamin Eagle? Looks like it is all hand carved out of wood. Talk about craftsmanship in these parks.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the attention to detail that we were talking about earlier that we can only hope is restored one day. But speaking of restoration, since I've last been here, this whole plaza for this classic coaster has been restored, and I'm so glad to see it.
Yeah, and look how cool this is too.
Screamin Eagle opened in 1976, making this its 50th anniversary, which is so awesome to be here and celebrate it. Again, I rode this as my first major coaster when I was 4 years old back in 1997. You only had to be 42 inches tall to ride the Screamin Eagle, which is so funny because when it opened in 76, it was the world's tallest, fastest, longest roller coaster. It's 3,782 feet long with 110-foot tall lift hill, and at the top you traverse this incredible 180-degree turn at the very top of the hill that Six Flags St. Louis is built on. The views are amazing, but I just think the structure in that first lift hill, turnaround, and drop are just one of the most beautiful coaster elements to ever exist. Then it's a mad dash through the woods with the tallest drop actually being 92 feet tall, the third drop on the ride. So it comes as a surprise. Sorry for the spoilers, Kieran. But it was the final roller coaster designed by legendary coaster designer John C. Allen of PTC, or Philadelphia Toboggan Company. And in fact, it was the last roller coaster built by Philadelphia Toboggan Company before they just started servicing and providing trains. To this day, it still runs PTC trains. I'm sitting in one of the originals, probably here, that has the classic buzz bars. Oh man, gosh. I just love these restraints so much. Unfortunately, now it runs with individual ratcheting lap bars, but I can just picture the olden days when this thing ran with these. I bet it was so smooth and people were just flying up out of their seats. Today, I have heard that it has not received enough track work to keep it smooth. In fact, we just got warned by someone not to sit in a wheel seat, which I wasn't gonna do anyway. However, I cannot wait to ride it again. I'm so glad to be back here, and I love that I get to experience one of my first major credits with Kieran as his 250th.
That hit is terrifying. There's a kid of mine. Once you're right, I'm so local big stock, she grab the sparkles, maybe wait till you have rest of your day.
Well, folks, I just rode my 250th roller coaster. Next up, 500.
It's coming before we know it. Well, personally, my opinion has not changed. This is by far my favorite classic out and back wooden coaster. The Screamin Eagle just does everything I want from this style of traditional Woody. I had heard that it was super rough, and personally, I just didn't think so.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit rough, but nothing like what we experienced over on the Boss earlier today.
Definitely not that. I'm not saying it's super smooth, but for example, you can clearly see they've added new wood in the valley between the second and third drops, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and when Daniel says this is an out and back coaster, it feels like it is an out and back coaster because it kind of makes this turn halfway through. So you've already gone far out into the forest, it makes the turn, and then there's another really long straightaway.
And again, this large swooping turn behind us, oh, it is just so iconic, leading into an 87-foot first drop, which is really fun in its own right. Then you go over the second hill, which is fine, you know, it's just kind of there, it's pretty. And then you rise up into the third hill and you see out in front of you nothing but forest and white coaster track. You dive down the 92-foot drop, which is my personal favorite moment on the ride, and from there on out you are just speeding through the woods. There is airtime on the hills. It's very, very light floater. Don't go in expecting ejector airtime, except there is one moment off of the very, very far 180-degree turnaround. That must be the steepest drop on the ride because it does lurch you out of your seat. But in general, This is just such a classic with an original John C. Allen layout. In my opinion, his best work, and I'm so glad that we got to experience these milestones together.
Yeah, for sure. And it felt like a really special coaster for my 250th because we needed a little bit of extra footage from off-ride, and so I had to ride it out there by myself. And it was the very first time I have ever ridden a roller coaster solely by myself.
A zen ride.
A zen ride, as they say. And as I was going up the lift hill, there was like, I want to say it was a soaring eagle, but it might not have been an eagle. It might have just been a big bird, but it was pretty cool.
For these purposes, we'll consider it.
We'll say it was an eagle. And so seeing that bird flying over there at the top of the lift hill, just me and it was really very cool. And then flying through the woods by myself, felt like I could really let loose and have a good time. And yeah, awesome.
What a poetic coaster experience. And one last thing, the Screamin Eagle crew is awesome. Hi guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. While Catwoman Whip is loading one arm, the other people on the other end of the arm are 164 feet up in the air. Must be quite a view. That is Daniel waving down at us. All right, Daniel, how was that ride? It looked pretty out of control.
Oh my gosh. Well, it is definitely called Catwoman Whip for a reason, because that thing whips you over the top. You know, I was nervous about this because this flat ride was the replacement of Superman Tower of Power, which was an Intamin second generation drop tower, one of my favorite kind of rides in the entire world. So it had big shoes to fill. And so when I first saw it announced, I was like, oh man, we're putting a carnival flat ride that has low capacity at the top of the hill that should be reserved for like something very prominent and unique. Well, my initial thoughts were so wrong. This ride is crazy. Yes, the wait was long because the capacity is, well, it could be better, but the ride was incredible. It's 164 feet tall and 52 miles per hour, but it feels way taller than that and far faster. I don't exactly know like if they vary the speeds every time that the ride makes a rotation, but your individual gondola definitely swings back and forth in different patterns every time, so you don't know, is your car gonna flip upside down this time, or is it just going to flip back forward, which gives you a moment of crazy airtime? Yeah, I loved it. This is a great addition to this park, especially on a very light crowd day.
Well, I'm not too sad about the fact that we are going to be skipping the boomerang today. Not my favorite.
Well, if you've seen our Six Flags Mexico video, then you know how I feel about Vekoma boomerangs. However, this one is particularly offensive because right behind it was what was by far my favorite view of any roller coaster in any park ever. And I just can't believe a whole team of people got together and approved putting this giant green and orange monstrosity in front of the gorgeous turnaround of Screamin Eagle. I mean, that is the definition of blasphemy. Don't look up the definition of blasphemy. Just know, I'm telling you, this is it.
We are beginning to move into twilight hours here at the park, and with the sun coming through the trees, this place looks really, really good. There's a lot of great landscaping, a lot of big trees, a lot of nicely themed buildings. It's just a real shame about this blacktop. Like, imagine what this area could look like if it was brick pavers.
As we make our way down the hill to our final ride of the day, I am again just blasted with nostalgia. My first ride that I ever did when I arrived at Six Flags St. Louis when I was 4 years old was a Chance Falling Star that stood right here. It was called the Riverview Flyer, I believe, and it was so fun popping up and down above and below the tree line. Now we have a Larson Looper. I'm not gonna get into that. Let's just head to our next coaster, which is my second ever credit, the River King Mine Train. Now this coaster has a ton of history. It was an opening day attraction here at Six Flags St. Louis in 1971. It opened as a racing slash dueling slash twin tracked mine train coaster. Then in 1984, aerodynamics came in again. They updated one of the sides with the world's first stand-up trains. So it was the first ever stand-up roller coaster. Unfortunately, shortly after that, there was a tragic accident on the standing trains, and the very next year, in 1985, they reverted the trains back to the original aero mine train cars. Then in 1988, they sold one side of the tracks to Dollywood, where it operated as Thunder Express, and it ran there for about a decade before closing down to be replaced in 1999 by Tennessee Tornado, one of Aero's final coasters, funny enough. And that mine train track was then moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, where it operates today as Big Bad John as Arkansas Twister. Meanwhile, the other track still runs and operates to this day as River King Mine Train here at Six Flags St. Louis, and I can't wait to get back on my second ever coaster. Let's go.
As you might expect at this time of day, and after a very quiet day, we have the entire train to ourselves.
Woo! Honestly, I can't believe it. Nobody else wants to ride the original opening day coaster here at Six Flags St. Louis. That is crazy. I guess
We need more representation.
that is exactly right.
You got it.
Yeah. We're one of the OGs, but we got like nobody here. That's what
Sad.
I'm saying.
Crazy.
Maybe it's just the nostalgia talking, but for me, best ride of the day.
Well, it was certainly a good way to finish out the day. I really had a good time on that. Wasn't expecting too much from it, but it was a good long ride and has a really fantastic ending.
Yeah, the great thing about these Aero Mine trains is that everyone is different. This one does most of the layout is hidden from the rest of the park, so Kieran didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I did not give him a spoiler, which again, skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear. But the ending of the ride, you go up the final lift hill, turn into this black tunnel. It's pitch black in there, and sitting in the second to back row, you get yanked over this steeper and bigger than you would expect to drop in the dark, popping you out of your seat. And it's just like, how could you have a better finale than that?
Yeah, definitely. More mine trains need to finish this way.
Plus, now the air has cooled off. Bye-bye, sun.
Yeah, so when we were flying through the forest back there, you're starting to get a cool rush of air in your face, and it was the best I felt all day long.
Yeah, what a great way to end the day. I feel like a kid again. I mean, I guess
That's
we
the whole
travel
point of
around
amusement
and
parks.
ride roller coasters, so we're always looking to feel like kids again. but-
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the coaster that's going to have to undergo the largest thematic change with the new purchase of Enchanted Parks is Batman the Ride, which unfortunately we didn't make it to today. So, Kieran, guess you're never going to get on this version of Batman the Ride.
I typically avoid these Batman clones wherever I go, honestly.
Well, they're solid rides, but it'll be interesting to see, obviously this Batmobile will go away and this sign will go away. This sign will have to change as well. With that said, in general, this entire area of the park is really in need of a redo. There's no real cohesion here as it is, so hopefully Enchanted Parks sees the retheme as this coaster as an opportunity to just redo the entire area. We'll see how that plays out.
The main gift shop here at Six Flags St. Louis is pretty heavy on the DC stuff, but they do have a small collection of just kind of generic Six Flags, as well as a couple of coaster-specific shirts.
And it's funny because, 2 years ago, I would have seen this shirt and been like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, I've got to get this. But unfortunately, I already own this exact same Six Flags shirt for 2 other parks. So hopefully there's something else in here. And that does it for our final ever day at Six Flags St. Louis. Kieran, I know that you came into the park saying you had no to low expectations. What do you think now that we're at the end of the day?
Yeah, I thought this park was a really, really, really good time. Like the coaster lineup is mid for sure. Yeah. I mean, they have a couple of good things in like Mr. Freeze. I had a really good time on Pandimonium. But outside of that, I thought the park is really well upkept. I can see why the new owners want to use this as their flagship park.
Totally.
It makes a lot of sense now having spent the day here because the park is beautiful and it has this like 1970s vibe to it. And when I say that, I don't say it in a negative way. Like there's lots of buildings that look like they're from the 70s and it looks like they put a lot of love and care into them in the 70s when they were making them. And they've kept them for the most part pretty well maintained. And so they're looking pretty good. And I especially I have to shout out those the signs for the food stands and the stores. And I think it just looks really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, as Kieran said, the last roller coasters that have been added here are a second-hand kind of Vekoma Junior coaster and a multiple second-handed Vekoma Boomerang. So before that, like the last true new coaster addition was American Thunder in 2008. So, you know, it's scary that this park is being sold off by Six Flags, but also presents an opportunity for Enchanted Parks to come in and really show this place some love. And as you said, it has so much potential.
Absolutely.
I mean, even with the coaster collection that it has right now, I know I said that Screamin Eagle wasn't running badly, but if you replaced all of that track and got it running like brand new, I mean, that is a destination coaster in my opinion. And speaking of destination coasters, there are a couple things they could do with Boss to take it from a ride that people skip to a ride that people travel from around the world to experience. Yeah. Whether that is retracking it by GCI or the Gravity Group, retracking it with GCI Titan Track, making it, you know, a hybrid steel coaster. And speaking of hybrid steel coasters, obviously, you know, the opportunity doesn't elude us that this could make for an incredible RMC.
Absolutely, that would make it a park worth traveling for if they had an RMC here.
But you know what else could really put this park on the map?
What's that?
A B&M Hyper.
Oh my gosh, we say that at the end of every single video.
What is this park missing? Because, you know, it has a great launch coaster. Granted, that one is aging and relatively problematic, so
sure.
Hopefully they continue to maintain and upkeep Mr. Freeze, because it's a great ride, and I'm excited to see what the new theme is. But besides that, they have a cloned B&M invert. They have 3 wooden coasters, which are all solid, but none of them truly focus on airtime. And then besides that, they have an aging Aero / Vekoma looper. So a B&M Hyper is the perfect fit for this park.
Yeah. And in terms of operations, like it's hard to assess that when the park is so quiet, like it was basically a walk-on for everything. Generally, I think the crews were working pretty efficiently. There was a couple coasters where it was like mind-numbingly annoying that like the crews were like having individual conversations with every single person in the train. So, you know, we ran into a few things, but for the most part, generally pretty good.
Okay, but with that said, I was really surprised at the level of friendliness of the employees.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the people who were taking their sweet, sweet time were doing it in a really friendly way.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So all that to say is this is a park with a lot of potential. Clearly, it's been marked as the flagship by the new owners, and I can't wait to see what they do with this place. Well, if you guys enjoyed exploring Six Flags St. Louis with us for one final time, please like this video, leave us a comment, we'll definitely respond, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. We've got a long drive ahead of us to Silver Dollar City, one of my absolute favorite parks in the entire world, and Kieran's first visit.
First time, big bucket list park, so please stick around. We'll see you in the next one.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Today we have seen big birds, we saw a groundhog, and now we've seen a skunk. This might be the first skunk I've ever seen in my entire life. Please don't spray me.